Okay, hey everybody, it's Travis speaking. We're back again looking at some coordination procedures. Essentially what we're going to be taking a look at is building up a model, starting it from scratch, basically taking an existing template and taking some existing files and kind of smashing them all together and see what we get. And from that, we'll hopefully take a look at some different concepts within Revit and see how things are done. So just wanted to talk about coordination planes and sections for a little bit. Having coordination planes and sections as a part of your template as a starting point is a good place, something good to have on hand in your template just to give you a place to start. Because if you have a couple levels available, you can create these plan views and you can have the sections. If you're bringing in linked files like what we're about to do, we might take the files levels and recreate views from those. So let's just take a look at that process here for the time being. So in this coordination plan, you can see I'm not cropping the view. So if I bring anything in here, it's going to show it up regardless of where it is. My phase filter is show complete and my phase is new construction. So essentially, unless I've got some already pretty consistent phasing on my linked projects, I'm probably going to see the geometry from them. So what I'm going to do here is just go to Insert, go over here to Link Revit, and I'm going to come to my training folder where I've got some 2022 files ready here. So I'm going to link in the architectural first, and notice I'm not going to bother worrying about this. I'm just going to say internal origin to origin. So chances are where this ends up, it's not going to, this throws me off, sorry. Where it ends up is not going to be where I want it to be. But I'm getting this error message here, and it's saying the link cannot be reloaded because it is loaded into another open document. Now, it's actually not. I'm pretty sure if we go to manage links, we don't have anything in here. And if I go to this other tab, this is just the start page for this file. So why don't I try this first? I'm going to go to File, Save As, Project. And I'm just going to save this detached template into my Documents folder for the time being. And we'll just call this Coordination Tests. Okay, and that will be the name of this central file. So I always want to take a look to see if this is engaged, this gray check mark, because that's what happens after you detach and save. Okay, so I'll hit save on that. And while that's finishing up here, we can now go to Insert tab. So bear in mind that whatever work set you have active is what this linked file is going to come in as. Okay, so it's going to be on work set 1 when I bring this in. So I'm going back to that folder again. Been training. Into my 2022 folder, and let's see if that has any bearing. Okay, so I was hoping that that would make the difference, but it's not going to. So what I have to do is basically close out this session. This session of Revit remembers that I had that file open a short while ago, and it thinks that it still is. So I'm just going to close this out and restart my Revit. Now this time when I go back to this file, I'm actually going to open up a local file of it. So I'm going to hit open, and then I should see my file here, coordination test, and you'll notice it says that it was created in Revit 2022, and this time it's giving me the option to create a new local file for it. Okay, so if I didn't do a full sync and relinquish my work sets before I shut down and I was another person, I might encounter an issue at this point, because it's going to say, hey, this was saved by Liminal 1 or whatever, whomever saved the file, and they still own all the work sets. So it's vital that whenever you create your central file, you actually relinquish everything before you shut it down. Otherwise, anybody working with you won't be able to create their own local, or if they do, they're not going to be able to get past that point. Okay, so just to bring that home, I want to be in the Collaborate tab, and under Work Sets, I shouldn't see my name here in the owner, but because I didn't do that relinquish when I left, I still have this all locked down. Okay, so because I knew I was the same person logging in, I'm not really worried about that. I'm going to move forward with it. Okay, so back over in our coordination plan now, if I click on Insert, I should be able to bring this file in. So one last time, let's see. Okay. I'm just going to close that window because the construction's a little crazy here. Okay. A little more peace and quiet for our video. Alright, so this message is just saying, hey, you're bringing in this file. This file has these files linked into it, but those files are set to overlay, so you won't see them here. Okay, so if we would have had them set as an attachment in Hospital Architectural, they would have come with. So we can say close on that. That's fine, thank you very much. And it looks like that's done. And if I double click my wheel mouse, I can see here's this big old file here. And if I switch this over to my default 3D view, you're going to notice that this is significantly larger than what my typical project is set up for. Okay, so it's not in the scope of where my project is typically set up for, and the levels are all over the place, and I don't yet have my other links in there. So if I'm trying to compile a federated model, then I don't want to move this at this point. I want to see where the other files come in at. So again, we go to Insert, say Link Revit, and this time I'm going to use the HVAC model and use this same positioning. Okay, I get that same message again, which I'm going to ignore. And then I'm going to do that one more time for our structural model. And now I have a fully federated model. I just want to go in here and see, like, overall, how do things line up? And they look like they line up okay. We might find some things, some discrepancies in here soon, but for the most part, what it looks like to me is okay. So I'll go to level 1, my coordination plan, and you can see the grid intersections do seem to make sense. Now this plan, this coordination plan, is set up so that you can actually see all of the links. If we go take a look at the view template, you can see that the Revit links are not locked down by this view template. So at this point, you can make a decision. You can say, well, I think I want everything to be controlled by the view template here. So why don't I throw a check mark in here and hit edit? And then you know that everything is going to show up the way that your host model wants it to. Okay, and that's going to have the same effect on the architectural. Now that architectural link might become geometry that we want to now use in this model for documentation. So I don't have enough views, and I don't have really control over this architectural model because it's a link. So I could go open it up and make the changes there, but what I actually want to do is break this down and move this further, right? So the situation that we're emulating here is I have maybe a schematic design model or a DD or a CD model that I want to bring into pre-construction to take a look at it. Or I just want to move forward in a different template. So maybe I received this model from another consultant, but I want to leverage the power of my template so I can link it in and move further with the geometry. Maybe change wall types, curtain walls, windows, your doors, whichever. So anyway, that's what we're about to do here. So let's just take a quick look. This is why I want to have a section so that I can verify whether my levels are lined up with the levels of these links. Okay, so if I go to this level and I can select it, that is the level from my file, and I can go in here and say edit type. Okay, now if I say select all instances by hitting SA, I can see I have 4 levels. If I just hide those temporarily, I can still see levels. So where are these coming from? These are coming from the linked models. So what I wanted to verify was that the level 1 in my model is still level 1 for these links, and then I can move forward, basically getting rid of these levels. Okay, so again, I'm going to select top bubble level 1, hit SA, and then hit UP for unpin, because when I selected them all, I saw that pin icon come up, and I want to make sure that I don't have to unpin it after. So now I'm going to hit delete, and all these predefined things, like there's 140 elements, 24 views, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going to go away with us deleting this. I'm okay with that, that's fine. So you can see my project browser just got a lot smaller, but my section is still there, and that's pretty much all I really need at the moment. Okay, so what I'm going to do is pause the video essentially, because this is going to take a little bit of time, but I'm going to take my link here and bind it. But before, oh, you know what, sorry, let's undo. We can't undo. Oh no. Okay. What you would have wanted to do, let's see if we can do this in 3D, is move all of the geometry, all of the links together into that space that you're going to be documenting. So I goofed up a step and I'm not able to undo that, but I might be able to forgive myself if I can do it in 3D. Okay, so here's essentially the extent of my scope box. I just want to get, this guy, all 3 of these. Oh, okay. All 3 links, and I just want to push the center into the center of this scope box here. So I'm going to use my move command and get that center point. Again, this is, I'm just approximating. I'm not really overly concerned about this for a demo. So that moves all of the links together. And this way, when I bind the architectural link, the other 2 will be in the right place. Okay, because I still haven't taken a look at the grids or anything from this model. But while we're at it, let's just do this. I need this scope box to actually go to the extents of my built environment. So I'll stretch that out here while I'm looking at it. And then when I do actually get these new levels and grids into this project, I'll have something that I can very easily define their extents for. Okay, so just looking for that scope box again here. And bring that to underside of those piles. Okay, so that looks good. That's encompassing all of the geometry of the building within that scope box. Okay, and I'm getting the heights. And you see how these levels go beyond the extent. So once we bind the link, we're going to use the scope box to trim those down. So when you do bind your link, remember your active work set is what all of that geometry is going to go to. So I'm going to just leave it on work set 1, that's fine. But again, I'm going to pause the video because this is probably going to take a second or 2. So we'll be right back with that. When I do hit bind link though, I get this message here that's going to say, do you want to bring in the attached details? And that's all the established floor plans that have already been created from this architectural project. So do we want to do that? I don't actually want to do that for this process. I'm just going to say, give me the levels and the grids. I want to use those. So I'll hit OK. I get this message saying it's pretty big. This might take a second or 2. And that's okay. We'll say yes, see how long it takes. Okay, so that took quite some time, probably about 20 more minutes. So I should have prefaced that with that this takes quite some time, and that maybe before you hit the button, make your coffee plans or whatever you're about to do, because that's going to take your Revit offline for a bit. Anyway, it's saying that it can't keep these elements joined. I'm going to say that's fine. Unjoin. That might have some effects on detailing, but at this point we're not really worried about that level of detail. So okay, so now you can see I've got a group here, which is what used to be a link, so it's showing with a dashed line instead. And something of concern that you can see is that it's saying restore all excluded. So I'm going to show you something here. I'm just going to hit IE, and that is isolate element. And if I go to just this group, okay, so this is a huge group, and we need to, that's probably why it took so long. A lot of intricate families in here. It's hard to see these, but excluded elements show up just a little bit differently. And it's all in the pre-selection, and you can see it when we hover over it. It says members excluded. I'm going to go ahead and say restore all excluded members, because if I only have one group, then I don't want anything to be excluded from it. So Revit did something, possibly because of a constraint, and it just said we can't do this or whatever. I'm going to see if we can undo that. I want to have all of the geometry that was from this group. Even this one, you can see that blue donut is spinning quite a bit, and this could take a little bit as well, so I might speed this up in the output in the video. Okay, so we get another error message saying to unjoin elements, only 3 this time. I'm going to say go ahead and unjoin those. That shouldn't take too long for that to resolve. It says selection cannot be copied, cannot copy element. Let's expand that and see what that is. Okay, a couple analytical nodes and the type of workset model. So there's 2 analytical elements that are giving us a bit of grief, and I don't know that that's actually going to cause us to have to redo this. Let's just see here. If I hit cancel and the whole thing is undone, then that was a big giant waste of 20 minutes. Let's see. Okay, so I still have a model group. Now, I get the feeling that the excluded members could possibly have something to do with those analytical nodes. So let's just try it again. All right, so it looks like that actually worked this time. You can see a whole bunch of pins. That's probably from the curtain walls. So let's just move forward. Okay. So what we were actually trying to achieve in the first place was what we wanted to get some plan views in here, right? And because we didn't have this model geometry, these levels in here, we couldn't create the views from those levels. So that's essentially why we were binding the link, but it would also be so that we could start moving forward with editing this geometry. So if you remember before the 20 minutes ago, I guess it won't be that long in the video, we changed our scope box, and so now we can select these levels, hit SA, and now you can see we've got all of these levels, and no matter how weirdly they are set up, we are getting them, and we can change the scope box to say overall scope box. And that's just something that is pre-existing in the template, just to give you something to choose from. Okay, so you see how nice and neat these all become now. And we know, because we've done this a time or two, we've got this extra unnecessary level in there. So we're going to take that guy out, and I'm just going to hit pause there and then pick this up, I think, in another video, because I want to just kind of save this file up and take it from there. So stay tuned for that. We're going to take a look at getting this project set up with some new coordination plans, and we're going to take a look at creating the coordination plans and how to leverage a view template to use them. So stay tuned. We'll see you soon.